It was groupthink at its worst. Typical blind allegiance to college sports fans who so often tossed aside reasons in the name of the big-ticket sports at their alma mater. Penn State's decision to honor Paterno was a manifestation of that. Absolute horrible decision. And I just want to get past that and just want to get my take on that big event this week. And I just want to get that, I just hate talking about such kind of sensitive subject matter like that. I want to stick to what we were doing before in the first half of the show. Like more like peppy, talking about football. Like, this is fun, like, yeah. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it can go. All right, so we're going to do a little bit more, and then we will call it quits. This is Finish Line. I just, one of the things I don't get here is, welcome me back here to the Finish Line podcast, is why people could possibly be worried about Bill Belichick. I mean, he made Jimmy Garoppolo in the first half today in Miami look like one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Like, I just don't understand how people could be worried about that guy. I mean, he is incredible. He's going to get whoever's going to come back from him. I'm pretty sure it's like, let me think. Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, get Jacoby Brissett in there like nothing. Like, I mean, I think that'll be fine. Like, there's not going to be any problem with that. I mean, seriously, he's just going to come out win another game. It's just really incredible. Welcome you back. Final stretch here at the Finish Line podcast where we will have Stu Rothstein, prominent Penn State alumni member, joining us. Talk about this whole Penn State thing. I promise we're going to put it to bed. Just going to want to get his take on this, though. Joining us now is close, personal, great guy and good friend Stuart Rothstein, who is also a Penn State alumni member, or whatever, however you say it, I'm not sure. Cares about the university deeply. He joins us now. So, Stu, how are you today?
I'm great, Spencer.
Thanks so much for joining us. How can you just describe your time at Penn State and like what it taught you as a person? Because I know very important, big life impact for most people is college.
Yeah, I had a wonderful experience at Penn State. I was there from 1984 to 1988. I've made some lifelong friends. I thought I grew tremendously as an individual. I thought the academic environment and the instruction was fantastic, and I thought it was just an all-around wonderful college experience, and it's a place that I have great memories of and still head back to visit the school with my family today and continue to enjoy great times there.
Yeah, so other than those two things you mentioned, do you still like contact people at Penn State today, or maybe one of your old professors, your friends? Like, what's your impact? What do you do with Penn State today?
I'm involved with the business school at Penn State, and specifically with the real estate program at Penn State. And Michelle, my wife, and I have in various ways committed both our time as well as some financial support to the business school. And then beyond my involvement directly with the business school, I'm regularly in contact with many of my friends who I graduated with, who are all involved in different aspects of the university.
Sounds like you would say that it had a pretty, you still do a lot with it today.
I do, absolutely. Try and stay as involved as I can.
Sounds pretty good. I hate to go here with it, you, but what would you, like, what was going on in your life, like, when you heard about this whole Penn State scandal with Jerry Sandusky and Joe Paterno, and like, how did you react to it originally?
I think my initial reaction was one of a combination of shock, sadness, and a little bit of anger. I think for those of us, when I was at school there, Joe Paterno was effectively in his prime. The football team, from a performance perspective, was always ranked very highly, won a national championship when I was there, and more importantly, had really created a tremendous reputation as being an institution that did a great job of combining both athletics and academics. So I had, very fond memories of what he brought to the school and how the football program was run correctly. That being said, I graduated in '88. He was still the coach in 2011 when he was 84, 85 years old. He had slowed down tremendously, and I think, like many, in a bizarre way, we were all hoping that he was either going to retire or the school was going to ask him to leave before something embarrassing happened. Because I think he was at a point where, despite his desire to be coach of the team, he really could no longer do it anymore. And unfortunately, rather than something embarrassing happening, it was, really just a tragic story of, just a terrible crime committed by an individual on, various children that is just awful.
Yeah.
And I think it was, in some way, it was just a very sad way for that sort of to be the last significant event in Joe Paterno's life. But, that is what it is. I was angry at the school for a couple reasons. I think the school handled the whole event pretty poorly from a response perspective, and they really seemed caught off guard by the whole thing. And I think I was also angry in some respects that something like this was able to go on for as long as it did without something specifically being done. Though that being said, clearly Sandusky's been proven guilty and he will spend his life in jail. There's many instances along the way where various individuals, whether it was the state's, Department of Child Protective Services, the Attorney General, for many, many number of years, a lot of people had the ability to investigate this individual and find something, and for whatever reason, nothing was ever found, and he was able to commit crimes over a very long period of time. So it was a mix of emotions. So
you agree with the way the NCAA handled it, but not so much Penn State and the way they handled it from kind of a PR perspective?
No, I thought the NCAA handled it extremely poorly, and I think Mark Emmert, who was the head of the NCAA, really used it as a chance to grandstand and further his own profile. I'm not really sure what the mandate is of the NCAA, but to the extent the NCAA is in any way, a monitor of athletic programs, I believe what they're supposed to do is ensure fair play in terms of recruiting, play on the field, making sure athletes are meeting certain academic standards. And whatever you want to say about the Sandusky scandal, there's no, if anything, Penn State has in all respects set the standard in terms of making sure its athletes adhere to academic standards, making sure student athletes are truly student athletes. And in large part, I felt as if the NCAA inserted itself in a place that it just didn't belong.
So maybe they do you think they should have left it to Penn State to officiate? Like, how do you think the NCAA should have handled it, and how should the Penn State people be punished?
Yeah, look, I think ultimately this was a criminal situation, right? So Jerry Sandusky was handled through the criminal courts. Three other individuals associated with the university None of them Joe Paterno, just to be clear, but the athletic director, the president of the university at the time, and one other individual who escapes me right now, have been charged by the Attorney General with various crimes related to obstruction or failure to act, though that whole legal process is still ongoing. I do think, where the NCAA did have some ability to comment, might have been around the structure of Penn State, but ultimately I think this, was meant to be handled by the trustees of the university, who are responsible for ensuring the right balance between the university's mission of education and where the athletic program fits into that. And then more importantly, I think it's up to the Board of Trustees to address the policies and procedures that the university has in place for dealing with situations involving all sorts of potential crimes. But obviously the one we're talking about here is sexual harassment. And what is the system around reporting potential acts? What is the system for investigating those acts? And how does the university work appropriately with law enforcement? And I think it's clear that whatever policies and procedures may have been in place, there were clearly gaps in those policies and procedures. And I think it is up to the university to take the lead in rectifying those policies and procedures, which it has.
Okay, so Joe Paterno, while he was at Penn State, had such a huge impact on the university, both academically and athletically. Can you kind of, like, for those people who may be listening who haven't had that kind of experience with Joe Paterno being a part of their Penn State education, can you try and describe Joe Paterno's impact on the university as a whole?
Yeah, look, I think he was a large personality who I truly believe at some level really believed that there was a way to combine highly competitive athletics with athletes who are true students and are also responsible for getting their work done at the academic level. And I think he certainly proved that over his career. I think he also truly wanted to use whatever success Penn State had in the athletic arena to further the academic reputation of the university. And he was very willing to be an outspoken advocate and supporter of the academic mission of the school. And he was very active in fundraising. And, it's not often that you find universities where, the library is named after the football coach, because he went out and spearheaded the fundraising for the library, right? He was very much a part of the university. He did not believe necessarily in keeping athletics and athletes separate from the student body. They were part of the student body. That being said, I think in some respects, to the extent he had a fatal flaw, he didn't think about the transition after him, and I think he stayed in his role and his position too long. But it's I think that often happens with people who, in many respects, love what they're doing.
For you, when you were there, did Paterno have a personal effect with you when you were at Penn State? Did it affect your experience there at all?
It didn't impact my experience. I was friends with some people on the football team. To me, the football team was like any other a large group of people. There were some who were really good guys, and for whatever reason we connected and we became friends, and there were others who, for whatever reason, just had different interests and we didn't become friends. But it was very clear that, given his reputation, given his desire to be part of both the university overall as opposed to just the athletic part of the university, his opinion counted for a lot and he was a very large personality.